I'm just going to click on this, sorry, just one moment, so we get it going. And we have just a couple of announcements. We are observing social distancing where we can this evening. We recognise that there's a lot of pressure on the NHS with COVID at the moment. We have minimised the length of the agenda. There were other items that we postponed until February, just to try and keep us to the bare minimum of what we could this evening. So just to make it for those. I'll come to apologies for absence. We've had a couple of apologies, one from Councillor Andy Roberts and one from Sue McKinnon.
And one from District Councillor Keith Moore, Secretary for Justice, who can't make tonight.
Okay, yeah, that's not actually
no.
You do hear this, okay, it's fine, but it's just for the town councillors.
But he said he likes audio.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. Noted. Thank you very much. We also don't have the attendance of Councillor Tony Crouch. Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, Tony Crouch is in hospital. This morning he was shot.
Okay. I must remind Councillor Busk, have you been given permission from Councillor Crouch to share that personal information? Because unless you've expressly been given that, you're not allowed to share it publicly.
What you're saying is it didn't happen.
No, I'm saying that personal information about councillors can
No,
be
no,
shared
I'm not.
publicly.
I'm not sharing it. I'm just saying the reason he's not here, he intended to be here, was this morning somebody shot him and he's in hospital.
Okay. Right. Okay, that's fine. What I will say about this, though, is kind of a moot point anyway. As of the 6th of January 2022, Councillor Crouch had not attended a meeting for 6 months. So prior to this meeting anyway, he had already expired past the point at which he could be represented as councillor. And under the local law, I'll just make sure I get this right. Under the Local Government Act 1972, it states that when a councillor fails to attend any meeting for six consecutive months from the date of his last attendance, they cease to be a member of the authority. So as of this evening, we're formalising this, it's going to be noted on the minutes that it has been beyond 6 months prior to the meeting this evening that he has not attended a meeting, and as such we will notify Brecon Councillor that he is no longer a member of this council. Okay.
But you are aware of the circumstances.
Okay, that's a personal matter. I think we ought to be very careful on raising that in a public meeting, as I've said several times to you, Councillor, before on the same matters. Okay, so we will, as authority, be notifying Brecon Councillor of that. Okay. Councillor vacancies, item number 3. We've now been authorised for the previous vacancy that we can go to co-option from Brecon Council. In light of Councillor Crouch, or Tony Crouch as it is now, not being a member, there is another vacancy. We will now wait on Brecon to confirm that we can also go to co-option on this one. May I suggest, if it's okay with councillors, welcome feedback on this, that to make the process efficient and open and just a little clearer, that when we get authorisation from Brecon Council on the second vacancy, that we ensure that the advertisement for the 2 vacancies allows sufficient time for applicants, so we can have it in one process rather than one month and one the following month.
Sorry, Phil, we've already advertised the first one.
We've already advertised the first one.
Sorry.
Do you know what the cut-off date for that one
It's
is?
the end of this month.
The end of this month, okay. We may extend that if councillors are in approval. If you're in approval, we may extend it and add in a second one once we've got confirmation from Brecon Council.
So do it in March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you all happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. It's not so much a proposal as just the way we do things. Declarations of interest. Any declarations? Okay. Any key interests? No. Public participation. Any members of the public here? They'll break it. No comments. Okay. We do have one or two emails that have been sent to myself. One email was a number of questions to Councillor Crouch. In light of the action of the council now and the non-attendance of the said individual for reasons stated, I don't feel it's appropriate to raise those questions now because we don't ask members of the public questions here, it's for councillors. And it is effectively not a councillor. Okay, the other one was highlighted here. I'm just got it on my phone, so I do apologise for this. I didn't have time to print this one off. Okay. Should have printed it off. Okay. This is an email that was given to Councillor Smith. If you don't mind sharing this, you've got it printed. You know, I'm going to read it from that. That's a lot easier than reading from my phone. Thank you ever so much. Okay. And it states, I'm emailing to express my concerns regarding the parent parking along Thieves Lane and Bestwell Road at school pickup times. The number of cars parked has steadily increased since school returned in September, blocking both junctions with Paddock Gardens and Arlington Gardens. So much so that it's virtually impossible to negotiate a turn safely. I drive this route every day at this time, and it is an accident waiting to happen. My concern is not only for the car drivers, but also for any pedestrians or children that may be involved. As this may be a highways issue, and ask if you could raise this matter with them. Also, perhaps a letter from the council to school parents may help. Okay, so yeah, noted. I'm going to open this up to councillors. I know this is public participation and we have no obligation to answer it at this point, but I just wanted to gauge your thoughts if it's raised as an issue. That's what
an accident waiting to happen. Coming out of Paddock Gardens, there are cars parked, so a driver coming out has to push right out so you can see round the cars. Thieves Lane, you're lucky if you can get across. It really is an absolute nightmare, that whole area. Down Thieves Lane, right, not Thieves Lane, Bestthorpe Road, sorry. Down Bestthorpe Road, right the way past the school down, and also on Thieves Lane, on the corner and down. It really is a nightmare.
Thank you, Councillor Smith.
I know that there's no parking restrictions down there, so practical matter, there's nothing we can do in terms of that. However, the school, I believe, should have a travel plan. So if we can, that should have happened and they redeveloped and expanded. So if we can get sight of that travel plan, that might give some indication of what they thought they would do to mitigate this sort of problem a few years ago when they were expanding.
Thank you. Councillor Ty was just responding to that point, I believe, and then Councillor Buscappers.
I totally agree with you that I suspect the education authority would say we have no need to implement travel plans. And I think this is symptomatic of what's happening. And I've been over before, and I'm going to say car park strategy, and we'll come back to that shortly. But to solve it immediately is going to be almost impossible because one, it's a highways matter. There are no TROs down there. It's not a police matter. It's a parents matter. It's a behavioural matter, and that's going to take time. And this applies to the whole town actually, in terms of all the schools as well. Of how do we influence travel behaviour? Because most of the cars are coming from 1 or 2 miles, and it's why don't we walk? Why don't we cycle? That's a different discussion. So I totally understand it. What can you do immediately? I'm not sure. It's a county council issue. It's a highways issue. And they'll look at it as a safety issue. if we are thinking long term where the town goes, then that's a different discussion. And there are options if the town council is brave enough to address those and work with Brecon. The travel plan, I agree, unless they put a bond into the county council, which I suspect they haven't, it's not really enforceable. It's more about you should try and do this, and it's onto the parents, you should try and do this. You know, we have discussed with Brecon on travel generally within the town of should be campaigns explaining why can't you be more sustainable. So there is an issue, there's no easy answer. There are some solutions, and those solutions are problematic in themselves. So
I'll come back to a couple of these. Councillor, but be patient.
As one who lives in Seas Lane, I am aware of the problem, but the focal point is school, and I do believe the school could play a part in telling parents, look, these are the areas where you cannot park your car. If you do, then the school will note the numbers, etc. And also a warning, a polite warning to parents about the dangers of multiple cars coming at a very short time, etc. I do believe that a start could be made by a contact call.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, Councillor Taylor, and Councillor Lane.
I was just going to say, I'd be happy to contact the school in terms of finding out if they have got a travel plan, just to look and see if there's solutions in there.
Thank you. And, you know, we do need to start there as first point. So absolutely, I'd be happy if Councillor was agreement that, say, Councillor Smith could contact the school and acquire that. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I was just going to say that maybe, you know, understanding what our responsibility in this is obviously quite important. And I would just think that the most that we can do is make representations either to the school or to Norfolk County Council. I think that's where our jurisdiction in this ends. So maybe just a formal letter through the clerk to Norfolk County Council, making representations on behalf of the council, just saying this has been brought to our attention, it seems to be an issue, can you please look at this and just put it back to Norfolk County Council to deal with, but obviously make a representation from us as a council.
I would be agreeable to that, and I like the idea of actually approaching the school as well as county council, because one of the things I've noticed from past dealings with Rosecroft when we've done that, if you go straight to the county, the school can sometimes feel as if you've kind of gone to the authority without having a conversation with them first to find out if they've got anything that they want to do or need help in acting. I think a joint thing that we can make representation both to the school and to the council and make it a bit more open, cooperative, supportive, but also raising the issue would be a wise thing for us to do. Councillor Lane.
I agree with Councillor Buss in that this parking thing centres around the school, but historically, you go back when my children were young in a different parish, there's always controversy around parking around schools. And coupled with that is, well, whose responsibility is it? As a town council, a member of our electorate has felt it necessary to write to us to, you know, to voice these concerns. And other members of the town council are saying it is an accident waiting to happen. So eventually, the schools spend an inordinate amount of time teaching the children safety. And I think that that we're talking about their own safety here, and it needs to extend out to the families of these children who are being dropped off. And I think I agree with you all about that this needs to be a cross-agency approach. But as Councillor Taylor said, where our responsibility ends is, you know, it is a county thing. But on the other hand, we do have people in the community who are concerned, and we have to be seen to be helping in any way we can. But I think fundamentally it does go back to the school and educating both the parents and the children on basic safety.
It does, and we have a history, you know, with Rosecroft particularly, being involved in a school with something that wasn't going to move for a long time and now has done because of work and cooperation that's happened fundamentally through, you know, the representation we've made. So it can work, even though it isn't particularly our responsibility or our authority to do so. So broadly speaking, I think there's a consensus on this. I know it's public participation, we're having a chat, and I just get the feel that we could, as a town council, through our town clerk, make representation to the school and to the county council, including highways, to raise this as an issue and something that we're willing to have a chat about, see if there's any support with, make sure they're aware of it, respond to the individual who raises. So, yes, you can, and let them know what we're doing, and as well as getting the travel plan as well, so we can have a look to see if there's anything that's may be useful in that. So, are we all in agreement that's the first step that we do? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I think that's it for public participation. On to item 6, minutes of the town council meeting held on the 6th of December. Anyone would like to make any comments or highlighted anything that needs amending? Okay, in that case, we're then going to propose their acceptance. Councillor Dale, seconded by Councillor Taylor, and a show of hands for approval, please. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. On to item 7A. Those matters already responded on for ratification. Anyone would like to make any comments on those or propose that we ratify those? Okay, I don't mind proposing. Accept those answers. Councillor Tyler has seconded that. The show of hands for approval. Any opposed? And I know we have an extension. Move. Yes, noted. 7B, and these are for responses yet to be given. We'll start with the first one there, which ends 1651 HOU, which is a single story rear extension road. No objections? No objections, okay, by the councillors. Next, 1692 review, which is a single story rear extension. No objections?
No.
Okay. Any comments? I know we.
I'm not really sure what to say actually. The principle there, the variation is in print.
Yeah, it's a variation from the 327 to make it up to 350, which was the original plan
Original plan application.
Because it's approved under the original plan application, I can't see how we can make anything approved already.
No, we can't. It's and we've had, and I think we've reported to council last week, we've had discussions with the developer that obviously this reduces open Asbury is already critically space. Which then I think it's one of those working productively forward with of early content developers input rather basically, and there's nothing we can do to There are application we develop as soon as an application comes in, which in the past. Very
Yeah. We are working on that. But as to the application, I can't see that there's any specific reason.
But
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
The dead on this and now ploy, isn't it? But from one. Don't get it, so you get less. And then suddenly they're coming back and want the original amount. And I think lessons have been learned. We need to learn. And Ed said, I totally agree with that. We can't do anything about it, but if there's any that we can say, look, I hate to use this sort of language, but we're not speaking what we need to. I can't remember the phrase you used, soon or something. I think that was a more polite way of putting it, you know. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think, you know.
And that's a relation.
Yeah.
I think conversation before. But just saying this part, it's all part of that more how we make development.
A discussion that we're hoping Brett will have to develop that type of relation, be involved sooner. It's something that we look forward to seeing realised. But in this instance, there's
Too late, but we did allude you to in the summer. I think we reported that to councils. No, there's no objections. However, I do feel there's an opportunity to open, although it's probably meeting, so it weren't committed. Nothing's been agreed in terms of some value adding community play area, one was access to the back of the school, whatever could do that. Also, we did discuss common group, would they consider and the financial contribution.
that's
So,
yeah.
so it was a case of fine, but what can you do to help the community? And I think that low cost benefit of rather than going from Mill Lane to Decoy, if you can pitch that, it's just, and if we are looking, which we are, improving access. There's things that there were small we looked at, including bus stops and real time travel information on bus stops outside the estates and everything else. Which they and then
Yeah, we would like a consideration for the paving link between the site A, which is the phase, we've got accessibility to the land behind. Coming up later. Conversation. But than that, no other comment? Okay. Item 8, council reports.
So before we do that, apparently the lead is free falling with warp sound.
We are working on the backup laptop, which is causing 1 or 2 issues with our connection speed. So yes, I apologise for this. If we need to, we can put the recorded. Okay. Councillor.
Attended a few director meetings, but the items were not ready, so we'll keep the meeting.
We are.
call for purely transparent. Today, who's this planet target? It wasn't about Asper, it was about something totally different and private. Was keen to the all targets back, but I'm just saying, I spoke about no decision, recommendations made, it will work through reference as transparent. Start saying.
Thank you. David and Councillor Westby.
Yeah, similarly, it's just in the spirit of transparency. And following our last by London, and so Brian Felton Daniels, that's a plan comes in, about the contextual safeguarding that they've been doing, which I think they've been working with Breckland and IOB. They're doing quite a attend and a few attendees. And it was predominantly about because obviously the priorities that have been the antisocial behaviour in our and the recreation ground specific. So I was invited to attend that, and there is another meeting later this month. So on the 19th, I think, I've got this one, 19th of January, the one. So if there's anything needs raising or anything you would like me to relay, obviously there is a meeting. Meeting said from a council was obviously awareness that meetings are open to the public. Would like anything from us, to come and ask. Obviously, I did say, you know, with one park and other bits and pieces, but I think it is maybe just promoting the present age restriction on engagement. We also have a young lady come and speak a few weeks ago.
Making stuff. PR on that. Perhaps the communications helps. Councillor Westby.
Just very briefly, on chair of personnel, advise that we have appointed an announced person, started work, measures to second caretaker. We'll report further.
Thank you. Councillor Lane.
On the report, some of us attended to talk about in the town December, primarily with our local MP, but visiting some of the doctors and discuss how they were coping with COVID. Personally, I thought it could be an exercise that we as councillors could repeat a few times a year to actually, I know some shops and that like that. And I visited, so I'm not saying that we should always go around with an MP, but there's to have some structure like that to go around and chat. I thought, well,
I do agree with that. It was worthwhile. With the communications, if you want to set some dates up and invite councillors to attend on that, I would very much support that. Thank you. Let's see. We'll go on to number matters. Payments. Any questions?
Yeah, could I just raise it about the community?
Yes.
£138.63, although I also accept that we had a fund repayment 30. Money, can just sort of say exactly come about.
We asking money. before I was actually a councillor, council funding that they've secured for us. And it is for community transport where we have vulnerable elderly who utilize the state. The reserves that they have on the account, the amount. So trying to bring funding to place for this, but it's verified.
Just to add, Councillor Montague, that 6 high is actually for 2 months,
Okay,
so that's a double
Yeah.
payment.
thank you for that.
But they're doing very well.
Okay.
Questions? Councillor Lane?
I'm not questioning the cost, I'm questioning, I think if we can have purchased these or when we purchase, make it, you know, got them and, you know, if there was, see, you know, anything to fill them with, or would it be up to the public?
I'll answer that. To be honest with you, Councillor Lane, I didn't panic knowing what happened last Christmas and the fact that you couldn't get them, which wouldn't be enough, but it was just to give us that little emergency support. Going forward, when we emergency plan, something that and discuss, we would just responsible for that.
Sorry, Councillor Smith first.
Yeah, it's just a question. That's to cover music being played in this building.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Are we doing enough lettings
Yes,
to cover
that's why
the usage of that?
It's
Yes.
based on how many events we hold in town. Yeah.
Councillor Taylor.
Go back to the topic. We had to happen the next. So we were both attending training at Breckland, and I also attended a webinar that was for local authority emergency planning and a bit focus on as well. And I've got all the links for that, so I can separate that one. Okay.
Anyone? Would anyone like to propose accept? Yeah, Councillor Lane and then Councillor Montague. Show of hands for approval. It's unanimous. On B, which is to agree direct debits. Closing. Would anyone? Councillor Westby. And for approval. Thank you. I believe that's everyone. 9C. Of income. Any questions?
Is that all for 1 month?
Yes.
Wow.
I believe so. So, and to answer the question about.
Yeah, so I think the fact was for a month or how long?
Yeah. Is it not?
No. Some of it, there was a dance class. Paid.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
class for.
Yeah.
Majority.
It is disability being well in the community, especially times like this where you know, you might a little bit. It's nice that people are actually still able to carry on.
Yes, it's good. Okay. if I could have some of those. Montague, anyone second, and accepted. Councillor Busk, and the show of hands for approval. Thank you. Again. Is formation. And non-E, or any questions? Okay, we'll go on to item 10. We received some correspondence, hoping you had a chance to look at it and the photos that were attached to it. However, it's been addressed to ourselves, it's correspondence. So we try and, to the council. So you complete with as it does, and it would official to have double yellow lines on the placements.
But I was only going to say, if we say, we support your concerns, it's not on jurisdiction. It is highways, and it is highways.
And it's better.
And you've got, jurisdiction, vessel. We support it. Highways do. Bus stops don't normally down there. So what we can do is, and it is dangerous because I've been on a bus. It's pretty orange. It's supposed to try and hail the bus down. With this, which is fantastic. So there are issues, but it is a highway.
Community and the wider, we are interested with these kind of depots, and perhaps them before make a representation, respond to the resident and say, listen, and make representation to Bestford and say to Bestford, if you want to make representations to the county council about this, we will say in our support. That's as much as
It is a better approach. You said it does affect within the town itself. What to do is keep deflecting it to people get lost in the middle, don't they? We don't want that. So yes, I'm very happy to support that action. Councillors, are you in broad agreement that that's the approach? Yeah. Do you want to make that proposal?
I'll make that proposal. I think Ed was
the show. Thank you. Item 11, which is London consultation date. Councillor Tyler.
And then following that, an application was made for S106 money to Brecon Council, which was approved on the basis beforehand. I complained it had only been advertised. A lot of money to spend consultation. So it was money well spent. Well, again, the second time, district councillors agreed with that, and therefore, obviously, a second consultation was then needed. It was then an alternative is the one that's within the community was presented to us. The suggestion or recommendation I was going to make was actually, because the original is obviously has already been paid for by the town council, and I don't want to see that public money waste. And obviously, secondly, because that was the foundation of the application made to Brecon for the fund, whether or not actually perhaps both sets of drawings could be put out to the public in this public consultation. So what are your getting as broader feedback as we could possibly get using the that is already paid for by the council, our community that they've put forward to get an order. So that.
Thank you. Sorry, councillor.
I'm concerned that for this, the study done in 2018, and it is to me that the 106 money was based on that, and the second consultation is based on that. And I'm confused as to why we're now going, there's more plans or more other coming up with other ideas. This 2018 plan seems to have been pushed to one side, but that's been done professionally. It's what we want to, and that's why we need. And now suddenly there's all other things coming in. So I'm getting a little bit confused. Explain to me why we, in effect, seem ignoring the two plans that are professionally. Why is suddenly people getting involved in and coming up with other plans?
Okay. Sorry, Ed, you want to say something?
Yeah, all I was going to say is, and we'll come back to 2018 and why that went through a process, but it came very expensive, even though there is 106 money there. It was very expensive, and it did go second round presentation. And that's trying to make the neighbourhood plan community led. And I think it was a very successful exercise. It's unfortunate Superman's not here tonight. But it's perhaps the first example. We said to the community, here's a plot of land. What do you want? Rather than consultant coming in and putting ideas forward that were expensive. And were they the right thing? That community. Before we disbanded the neighbourhood plan, that was the right thing, is what you do is, and that volunteer group did say that people who are involved in this street of conceptually design this in more detail that you've got here with costs and go out and consult on this. The next day, professionals say you take this, you go out, you consult in and say, right, these are the ideas, what the variation costs, and then consult on them. Rather than consulting on it. So, well, what's the difference between this and 2000?
Sorry, councillor.
I recall having a discussion on the difference between 2018 and this new plan. I've never been me or my neighbour.
2018 or
This
is not going to.
No, but they'd actually people to find out what. Well, no one's spoken to me, and I previous meetings, a whole plan was put together. I agree in having involved, but we don't know what it was. They've come with some plans, and I understand you is that we now get a professional company to draw, which is going to cost us when we've already got made in 2018 that was agreed and that we've got money linked to that, and that seems to be been brushed to one side.
Simple answer. That's a non-affordable plan. 2018.
So why can't we adjust that plan?
This is
Just what we went to come about. The plan would eat up. I mean, it's basically a choice. This is a choice that we have before as council, we make as a council. If we were to do the London Road plan as per the council, we'd be able to.
Part
They were taken included in all the plan they had.
So are we now the 2018 plan to have put together a waste of money?
Can we just be clear that we put together was consultant employed
Yeah,
with a brief that's come up with something that's very, very expensive.
we didn't we give them a budget? Were they not given a budget that we
We're
had?
going back to the old regime. See, you're opening the kind of worms here because
Well, I'm just looking at it from the public. The public.
and I'm looking at it from the town. Ask those questions, I've been never told the answer. That's the old regime. We are where we are because of what happened in the past. We're trying to get through that and say, it's where we are, community, we're more transparent, we're more open. There, it's not thoughtful. Get the community and we try to keep it together, we try to keep the community together. And you can argue, well, they didn't do a very good job, or we can argue, don't involve the community again, let's just get consultants in the town council to make decisions. That's one strategy.
But I thought you just said the
we try to
consultants
do the
did
right
this.
thing, and this is where we're at, and it's conceptual. All I'm saying is, do we now take this forward and consult on it? It needs more work doing. It does.
Can I kind of step in here? I don't want us to get all the way doing this. I don't want us to get mired down with another delay on a project like this. 2018. It deliver, and the problem with putting consultations out forward. Once about it being this 106, it is and we've had discussion about this. Open to other plans to present as long as they're consulted on. It isn't linked to that. We have is if we just put those sort of plans in, deliver less than what we're consulting on. You are us. We need to present it in the right way. Sorry, Councillor.
Had a meeting in the town plans board, and local people from that area were invited, and we had and they discussed it, and they were told that it would go and would adjust a few, and we would have another public meeting in the town hall, which has never happened. But we had people, and people you've been speaking to were here and vocal about what they felt. I think on the moving the children's away from where it is now, which is not to be very, and to move the dog sign, which was a barrier against the houses. And so there are a lot of things that actually how that plan could be with changes. £6,000 for no, sorry. That was one of the things that actually stuck in my mind. We want space. So as I'm It's on it, sorry? 5,000. Oh, sorry, inflation, 6,000. As our mayor said, we need to have a look, get it moved, see if we can make it a real money to the town. By taking some of the money away, you're not going to, if you do it properly, you're not going to skim.
Just to clarify that point, we're not taking the
No.
S6 money.
No,
We were taking the
Taking-
money that was allocated
Yeah.
from the reserve.
Yeah.
Because we want a wheel park
yes,
as a pressing matter, which is one of our grants.
Sorry, can I just add one other thing that I think is important is that the study was done at the ATC on the town farm. A project that's been designed by a consultant, I think you should do, and here's the cost of it. Do under the name of community. Now, yes, you're quite right, Councillor Lane. You probably weren't consulting them. When you do consultation, you never get 100% coverage. But what they did, they tried to what that was a concept and practically did that. They did enormous amount of work in their free time. Or this is what we'd like to see.
But as a
So
town,
as
why
a
haven't
town
we seen this? Why were we
It
not?
came out, it was distributed to councillors last year.
It was, yes.
No, the actual final thing, but why weren't we, why didn't we know what they were going to ask him?
You were
Why-
told to, in part of the Network Plan, informed that consultation on the community need. It was the date.
Because it was just meetings. I know you weren't a member of set committee at the finance, and I think that's probably why you weren't in that conversation. I won't be minute as chair. What I want us to do is look at action. I'm going to allow a clerk to come in before Clayton.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify because where there's been that is me. I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not in that way. Achieve. When you look at these on their own, yes, you then they're not professional enough. When you look at with the original plan done by the subcommittee, and you look at the thought that's gone into that, this plan makes sense in what it's trying to achieve. The reason I drew this up is actually very relatable to such as what you're saying, Councillor Lane, is actually why on earth would we want to go and spend money having more plans drawn up? So I spoke to Phil, and we basically said, well, actually, perhaps we can create something illustratively ourselves that we can take to the councillors to give you an idea of where that middle ground might be without having to pay further consultants. Now, whether you're good, so do you like to start behind this slightly crude version, give an illustration without spending money.
Which I think isn't fair, because I think obviously looking after the public purse is what we should be doing. With regard to the cost estimate plan as well come from failing. If you're the one designing for the work, if there's a so actually a plastic if you present what can you do this for, what is like during budget that we'd be looking at, we probably could find alternatives that are cheaper than plain ink as well. And I don't know how true this is, but I do think sometimes consultants and stuff like that look at town councils and think, if they're a town council, probably got lots of money in the bank, let's pull their pants down. I honestly think they do fully take advantage of us sometimes and just think that we have endless supplies of money and take advantage of it. I honestly think we probably could if we looked hard enough, get these figures where they are, what it is. And you look at the price.
Fundamentally, the design is flawed because of a number of neighbours.
And there's some things in the dislike. I think it's to say, I don't want children playing in it. I don't have children, not yet. I think the sound's a good idea. Do you know what I mean? So I think there is things that could potentially change. And I'm not saying disregarding the work that's been done, but I do think to give a number of options and say, there is this, see if it's feasible. Out the other designs do not have sound, and just try and find a ground where people as possible. I don't see how that could, do you know what I mean, not be a benefit.
Thank you. Sorry. I mean, another, you know, I feel it's what I'm hearing. It seems to be a bit of a subgroup that's doing this work. They often go out volunteering and get quotes. I think one is telling them somewhere that they know people who've done them. Around the table, good idea, fine.